Let's talk about adjusting your attitude. Let's talk about thoughts that hurt and thoughts that heal. So, how you think can have a very profound effect on your emotional and physical well being. Thoughts and beliefs can increase or decrease your stress. In cognitive behavioral therapies, this is referred to as negative schemas or positive self talk. And cognitive behavioral is how the way you think affects the way you act. So, negative schemas. Negative schemas are like negative views. They've been called schemas. So let's talk about them. Negative schemas are absolutes. They give you absolutely no other option. So an example of a negative schema is, now that I have MS, I will never be able to have fun with my friends again. So anything that has never or again, now that I have MS, I will never be able to do this again. I will never be able to do that again. Any thought that has never in it, or I will not be able to again, is very stressful. It's an absolute. It gives you absolutely no other options. Now I'm going to give you some alternatives to this, but for right now I want you to just hear these. And as I'm saying this, I want you to check in with your body and see if there might be a stress response, because these are very stressful things I'm saying right now. Another thought is, I will always have a hard time with MS. Feel how that affects your body. Wow, I will always have a hard time. And this is one that's just so painful that we say to ourselves, nobody likes me now that I have MS, or nobody likes me. Feel how bad that feels. You can probably notice all those physiological responses to that. I'll never figure this out. Nobody understands. And I can't exercise with MS. So just really feel how difficult and damaging these thoughts are. Evaluations that trap you, assessments that you make. Life is hard all of the time. I'm just an unhappy person. Other people have it so much easier than me. I'm not important. I can't. Or the opposite. I can, I should do this. I can't handle this. Or, I should be able to do this. Can't and should. And assessments about yourself that are just so trapping to you and give you no other options. So just feel how yucky this feels. And you probably have your own that are different than this. But it's important to be aware of how this affects us when we hear this, when we hear ourselves saying this to ourselves. Okay, so how do we get away from this? Let's go on. Let's look at positive self-talk. That's how we get away from those negative ideas. Positive self-talk includes absolute options. So versus the ones that trap you, that you can't get out of. That belief that I'll never be able to do this, so I'll never be able to have fun with my friends, it's much more helpful for you to think the truth, which is, I need to find other things to do with my friends that are fun. I need to find other things that are fun. I need to find different things. It's not like I can't find anything ever. It is true that there may be certain things that you're not able to do, but there are other things that you can do. It is true that life is harder with MS sometimes. But rather than life will always be hard with MS, life can be harder with MS. But I am going to figure out how to be easier on myself. I'm going to figure out some way to make this a little easier. Other positive self-talk. I don't like having MS, but MS does not need to change the person I am. MS is a disease that affects your body and that has a tremendous influence on your life. But you need for yourself to find out the person that you are that MS cannot touch, because MS does not need to change the person you are. I am going to find a way to figure this out. And remember, what happens if you can't find a way to figure it out? Ask for help. So it's about adapting. It's about knowing what you need, knowing who you are. Some of my family members may not understand, but the woman in my self-help group is going through the same thing and she understands. How much more wonderful than the belief of nobody understands? Of course, there are some people that can at least be there to listen to you. Maybe they're not going through exactly what you're going through, but they can understand a little bit. They can understand that it might be hard. I know that if you had different ways of exercising, and some of those ways may not be physically possible. But if you used to love to run, and that's not physically possible for you, then you can say, I am going to find new ways to exercise. Because there are definitely ways to exercise, and you can learn a lot about that through the MS Society. I will find a way to adapt, change, do it differently, not do it, do something similarly, or just not do it. So listen to this. I will. See how this feels in your body, how you might relax with this. Just notice this and how it feels so much better to think and to try to believe, because it is true. I will find a way to adapt, change, do it differently, not do it, do something similar, or just not do it. Just take that in and take a look at these positive self-statements and see how much easier it is when you use these. Let's continue. So here's some evaluations about life that really free you. Life can be hard with MS, but I am going to learn. I am going to learn. You have the option to learn how to laugh, how to have fun, and how not to take life so seriously all the time. Yes, and if you're struggling with this, this is when you're going to need to get some outside help. I get frustrated and sad, but having MS doesn't mean that I have to be miserable. So this is when you ask yourself the question, how can I make this easier for myself? If I'm unhappy most of the time, I can ask my doctor for medication and a referral to a therapist. So if you're struggling most of the time, it doesn't have to be this hard. I know that life can be hard, but there will always be people that have it easier or harder than me. So again, you ask yourself, what can I do to make it easier for myself right now? See how that feels in your body. Notice how that is a much more relaxing thought. What can I do to make it easier for myself right now? And we can go on to more self-talk and more things that are helpful. Others are very important, but I need to have the starring role in my life. What can I do so I feel better about myself? And you can ask yourself, am I not able to do something or am I not willing to do something? And there's such a big difference. If you're not able, you're going to need to ask for help. Or find a different way to do it. Be willing to ask for help or find a different way. You could think, I could do this if it's the best thing to do and I am able. So sometimes there are things that you can do, like you can change. And the idea of feeling like you can do something really reduces your stress. You might think, this is hard, but I'm learning to trust myself, and I will find a way to be able to handle this. Having trust in yourself really reduces your stress. Or you might be honest. Maybe you are not able to do this, whatever this is. And so you get to say to yourself, I need to find a way to make it easier. Decide not to do it or ask for help. Find a way to make it easier. Decide not to do it or ask for help if you're really not able to do something. Really important to know what the truth is. So let's talk a little bit about compassionate listening and observing. We've talked about what you might say to yourself and how that can increase your stress as you experience right now listening to this, or make you feel more comfortable. So it's really important to listen to yourself, hear what you're saying to yourself. Learn how you really think about situations. How many assumptions are you making about what you can and can't do and what you will and won't do? Really learn. Pay attention to what you say to yourself when you're having a hard time. Do you make it worse? Do you hurt yourself, beat up on yourself when you're already struggling? Say mean things to yourself? Fault yourself when you're already having a hard time? Or do you give yourself help? Give yourself a hand? Are you encouraging to yourself? Try talking to yourself the way you would talk to someone that you love. Being kind. Asking yourself, how can I help right now? What can I do to help myself? Be willing to hear yourself when you're having a hard time. Sometimes things are difficult, and it's okay to be honest with yourself about it and say, this is difficult. Be willing to hear that voice inside that says, I'm scared. Be willing to find a way to comfort yourself. Even to say to yourself, yeah, I know I'm scared. What can I do to make it easier? How can I help? The way you would say to someone you love. Yes, this is an act as if. Act as if you really love and respect yourself. Treat yourself that way. And if you do really love and respect yourself, that's wonderful, and you're so far ahead. And that's just where you want to be. Be willing to find that sometimes very small voice inside that lets you know that you did well, that you did your best. If you're a person that tends to be really hard on yourself, find that little voice that says, yeah, but I tried. I tried. So the compassionate listening assignment will really help you with this. And we'll move on